It doesn't matter.
There's not a lot of lore there.
It doesn't actually. There is. You played the games.
Tell me a story.
What
are the Mario Brothers about?
That isn't your own interpretation.
You guys are acting like they didn't give us Ant-Man and the Wasp.
This is Gamified, the show where gaming execs, founders, and creators come to argue, agree, and occasionally say something they'll regret on LinkedIn. Every topic has a game mode. Every week has a winner. I'm Peyton, founder of Wolves and Kazuna. Filling in for Sam this week. Let's get to it, though. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of fun things. Crimson Desert got caught hiding AI art from Steam. The Cyberpunk TCG just broke Kickstarter records, which is really cool to see. But unfortunately, Epic laid off another 1,000 people, and we're playing CEO. And we are going to be talking about all of it on this. But I need to be able to have the best panel available. And the first panel list is going to be Michael Christine. Most people leave the SEC and go to a hedge fund. He left the SEC to make anime characters smarter. The lethal lawyer turned AI waifu architect. It's Michael Christine. How are you doing, Mr. Miami?
Hey, I'm doing great here in Asia, 4 a.m., ready to go, ready to kick everybody's ass, despite the fact I'm on like 1 hour sleep. So let's get it.
I appreciate you coming out, brother. I know. Thank you for waking up early to make sure that you have a good time with us. All right, next up, he ran Disney's digital gaming division, helping bring Club Penguin to a generation of kids and turn toy game hybrids into a real business model. The OG of family gaming, it's Chris Heatherly, and congratulations on Griffin Gaming Partners, brother.
Thank you. For those who don't know, it was announced today that I'm a venture partner at Griffin Gaming, which basically means I bring them deals. So if you have a cool startup, I'm looking at cool startups.
Heck yeah, he's
this guy's DMs, dude.
Yeah, his DMs are already full. Got it. He was supposed to be Koji right now, but fell through.
My popularity is so much higher.
Yeah, all of a sudden, people are like tolerable of Chris's political takes.
Yeah, exactly.
I really enjoyed Chris's sound effects lately. Like,
oh man, that is so freaking good. He was supposed to be Koji, but that fell through the cracks. So we're Uno reversing him from the host to panelist. He's the CMO of Remix and the creator of Gamified. It is Sam Stefanino.
What's up? This voice is why I'm not hosting today. Excited to see what it's like to be a panel and change everything after I realize how bad it is.
Just like,
why do I feel like I want a cigarette right now? Like
that actually is giving me the opposite effect for that. All right. Ruler of RuneScape, destroyer of backlogs, co-founder of the Digital Collectors Club, the DCC. If a game exists, he's played it. It doesn't exist yet. He's probably wishlisted it. It's Knock.
Yo, 3 new RuneScape patches this month on Old School, on RS3, on Dragon Wilds. Jagex absolutely fucking crushing it. The ruler of RuneScape could not be happier.
Gotcha. So he is no longer the co-founder of Digital Collectors Club. He is completely.
It's 3 RuneScape updates in 2 weeks span, man. I gotta play it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. He's the person who has explained digital ownership at dinner parties and somehow makes it sound like the future. Head of business development at OpenSea. It's Oliver Maroney.
Good to be here. Good to be here again. Hopefully my internet and quality is better. And hopefully I live up to not having a lack of sleep like Michael over here. So excited to join.
Love it. Love it. And he co-hosts Exit Liquidity, the show that puts founders' egos on trial and their business models under a microscope. If your pitch survives Jerry, it might actually survive the market. It's Jerry, the Golden God Singer.
Hey, what's up? Also, Peyton, please add in all-time most winning MVP of the show.
Yes, sir. Will do.
Daddy's home.
Amended. Daddy's home. Well, today we are going to be talking about a lot of fun things today. But first up is going to be big deal, little deal, no deal. Crimson Desert launched Thursday, sold 2 million copies in 24 hours, and players almost immediately started finding what looks like an AI-generated art scattered throughout the game. In-game paintings with classic AI tells, which half-human, half-horse monstrosities, the figures melting into the ground, the 7 fingers, gibberish text on signs. Pearl Abyss released a canned PR statement, and here's the kicker. Steam has required developers to disclose AI used on store pages since 2024. Crimson Desert's page has no disclosure. There's no bound to be some, seems like there's no bound to be some repercussions for that. So big deal, little deal, or no deal, a $7 premium game using AI art for background paintings and hiding it from Steam's disclosure policy.
Yeah, I can take this one to kick us off. I think that it's a really big deal for Two different reasons. One is it's a big deal for Crimson Desert. They're going to have to figure out how to sort this out and manage their relationship with Steam, which has to be a little bit fractured from this. But at the same time, it's a big deal for the consumer who is now having to reap what they have sown. If you're going to make people feel terrible about doing things that make their business run efficiently and make better products, then they're going to do things to obfuscate from you the fact that they're doing the former two things I just mentioned. And turns out that that's just going to end up in a situation where both sides are mad at each other, but you're not going to do the thing. You're not going to remove the thing that is making everything super efficient. You have to. And so therefore, the consumer is going to learn the hard way that everybody's going to do this until inevitably they just accept that it's part of the culture of designing games from here on out. So I think it's a big deal for everybody involved.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Baldur's Gate 3 kind of epidemic where he kind of mentioned AI being part of the systems and the processes, and then everybody lashed out, and then he got put into a corner that he has to stay true to having human in the loop. So it's unfortunate for that. What do you think about that, Knock?
I think so. Listen, I think if you're gonna use AI, don't run away from it. And I think that the real issue here is that they sort of ran away from the fact that they're implementing some of this stuff. At the end of the day, if the game looks great, people are enjoying the gameplay, I don't think it's actually taking away from anything. But when you're playing a premium price tag for a product that is saying that it is not leveraging AI as per Steam's rules, I think that you're getting maybe a little shafted here as a user to kind of walk around, and as you're exploring the world, you start to see some of the AI slop in some of the background artwork. So for me, I think it's a big deal in the sense that they're very clearly trying to hide this. Is it a big deal in the development process? Probably not. Does it make any tangible difference to the gameplay? No. Are people still enjoying the game? Absolutely. Yeah. But if you're one of the types of people who walk around into every room and speak to every NPC and look on every wall, which I am, obviously you're going to catch these things. So for me, I think it's a bad faith strategy, but I really don't think it affects the game or the quality of gameplay. And anybody pretending that this game is less than because it had some AI slop images on the wall and some artwork is being facetious. I think that ultimately this is a fun game that people are enjoying playing, and it was a little shady about the way that they hid the fact that they leveraged AI in some of this.
Yeah, it's a gigantic world, and I think a lot of it's being very nitpicky on the kind of background art and everything like that. Jerry, over to you.
Yeah, I think it depends on like which lens you view this from, whether it's a big deal or not. So I'd say like from the standpoint of being like Black Desert, and like if you're kind of an end user or if you're Steam, it's a pretty big deal, right? Because they were just like intellectually dishonest about what they have,
right?
And I think when Steam has this rule set, which you have to disclose it, and you then have not disclosed that, like what if they set themselves up for is honestly just like a future class action lawsuit, right? Which I would expect to have happen here because they went against like the App Store or the Steam Store protocols, right?
Right.
And so I think it's just a little bit silly, and then you lose the ability to like tell your own story, right? Or control the narrative, right? Because now the narrative becomes, oh, this isn't just a great game. They lied about having AI, and they were ashamed of having AI in the game or whatever. And it's just not how you're going to affect change. Like to affect change and to change the way that people want to view AI in the games industry, you have to kind of adopt the mindset of like, be so good that they can't ignore you, right? And like by all accounts, this game sold really well. It sounds like people are having fun with it,
right?
But they're losing control of the story that they get to tell because they tried to hide something, right? I still don't think AI is going to go anywhere. And I think overall, in like 2 to 3 years' time, we'll look back at this as a little deal.
Yeah.
But and I think if you're in the games industry, you're probably looking at this as a little deal because that most people are starting to do this. Most game studios and developers are doing this or a version of this. So it's relatively a little deal in that sense. But, I think it's a big deal in the sense that like you can mess up launching a game in so many ways. You should not mess up the ways that you can control. And I think they're kind of in the danger zone of seeing how that plays out right now.
Yeah, for sure. And just for everyone's like 24 hours, within 48 hours, they have sold like 2 million copies. And recently they just crossed over that 3 million mark. So the very successful game when it comes down to a $70 price tag, very little discounts, if any, were sent out there. So definitely from a revenue perspective, they got it. Chris Heatherly.
I feel like there's a group of people that like have to find something wrong with every game release. And the reason changes all the time, but it's the same people that are always doing it.
Right.
and
talking to
it's
Reddit.
obnoxious and it's bad for the industry. And I just, I detest it. I mean, look, everyone's going to be using AI. I'm very against the AI badge of shame, the scarlet letter that Steam wants to put on you. I think it's counterproductive. Everyone's going to be using it. And people who aren't using it are just outsourcing their art for cheap to low-cost Asian countries anyway. So I don't know where this idea that like, oh, you're sacrificing jobs or, like it's more ethical or whatever, like people, the industry was already finding ways to undercut artists, through outsourcing. So I feel like if anything, this empowers small indie teams to be able to make more with less and not have to take as much capital up front. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's very wrong-headed to neg on it.
Yeah. Would agree with that as well too. Michael, Christine.
Yeah. I could get flamed for this in Western audiences, but I'm personally so
You're in Asia right now, so you're good.
I'm so over the virtue signaling that comes with AI, anything that everybody is so up in arms about. We're moving to a future where every single person, company is going to be using AI in some way, shape, or form. The game is incredible. If a couple of the paintings on the wall are AI, who cares? I like looking at AI art. I watch AI videos. Some of the most popular videos on the internet right now are AI generated. So people just making a stink over every little thing that they can possibly make a stink over, that's just always going to happen online. Yes, Crimson Desert shouldn't have been, deceitful, as Knox said. Like, yeah, that's a great point. But at the end of the day, what gaming studio isn't using AI in some capacity right now? If you're not using AI, guess what? You're going to fail and you're going to be way behind. So, hey, virtue signalers, your time is coming to an end, just like it came to an end when people virtue signaled the internet, just like it came to an end when people virtue signaled social media. Your time is limited. Like, you're living in a past that doesn't exist anymore. So either, get with the future or just stop complaining. Crimson Desert's a banging game. People seem to really, really enjoy it. It's not like they, generated half the game. If I go to a wall painting and I'm like, oh, that's AI slop. How do I know it's AI slop versus, some random person in Asia that just, randomly made a photo? So I don't see a big deal with it. I'm very excited for the virtue signaling to stop and for us to actually embrace the future that's coming for us all.
Man, it's such a good point, Michael, and thank you for saying that, right? Because what would you rather have man hours and cost of production going into the painting on the wall that just doesn't matter, or better writing and more meaningful quests or more meaningful character development, right? And less of the bullshit go catch 6 trout and bring him back to this dude and wrap a bandage around this other guy, right? It's those FedEx quests, I think those can then be pushed further to the fringes of MMOs, right? I'd rather have just a better game overall and an AI painting somewhere than a really cool painting that I'm not going to look at it. I'm not Knock, dude. I don't go in every room.
Yeah, for sure. We'll go to Chris and then we'll head over to Oliver.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been working with Psyop Anime, if you guys know who that is. And I'm advising him. He's blown up on Twitter over the last couple months with his content. And this is a guy that was working in the traditional film industry and as a grip and an editor. And now he gets to own his own business. He's got lots of people who are really interested in investing in him. He gets to make anime, which has always been his dream, right? Mm-hmm. He's got another animator named Aiden Guo, who was working on One Punch as a lower level animator, and decided to quit his job doing that and lean into AI anime simply because it would take him years and years and years to really rise up to the level where he could do something really significant on one of those productions because of the hierarchy. So, people always assume that this is going to destroy artists, but the reality is that a lot of very creative people are getting to live their dreams because of AI. And so that's an example of what I think we're going to be seeing in the games industry very, very soon.
And I also would add to Psyop Anime because I've also watched a lot of him. I've been following him since he's had 10K followers. Now he's blown up massively. But one thing that a lot of the reactionary videos from Asmongold, as well as from other major comic book streamers, content creators, say he is lore accurate. So there were different ones between Carnage versus Spider-Man versus Venom, and they were oh, this person understands the actual comic book of this situation, where you wouldn't be able to get that in Hollywood because it's a little bit too dark or any of that stuff. So just really cool just to see that. We'll go to Knock, and then we'll go to Oliver. Sorry, Knock.
No, I was just screwing around. Listen, I'll take it a step back and maybe add a little bit of spice into this conversation, but we should not absolve Pearl Abyss of wrongdoing here, right? I want to make this very clear. Their wrongdoing is not that they leveraged AI tech in developing the game. I think that is going to become the status quo. It's table stakes for game dev moving forward. The issue and the thing that they absolutely deserve shit for is hiding it and pretending that it didn't exist, and not following Steam's rules. And I'll take it a step further. Steam and Valve, shame on you for applying the Scarlet Letter to anybody who wants to leverage AI. You're a platform for selling games, and you're actively hurting some of your biggest sellers on the platform. You look at what we just saw at Crimson Desert. We look at what we saw at Arc Raiders. These are games. We look at what we saw at Expedition 33. These are all games that leverage AI. Those games are not less than because they used AI. And the fact that you're putting this label on them, I think, is stupidity. I think one of the ways that you see a beloved incumbent, and let's be real, a beloved monopoly fall is when they start to do dumb shit like this and have hurt the actual people that are building the games that are playing on their platform. So I think there's a lot of shit to be given here. It's not for the use of AI. It's for putting that Scarlet Letter on the side of Steam, and it's on the side of Pearl Abyss for pretending that it didn't exist. I think that's the real problem here.
Good take.
I'm going to just want to chime in real quick. This to me is like going 5 miles over the speed limit. That's exactly what this infraction is. So, there's going to be people who call the police and say, "Oh my God, look at this person," but you're going 5 miles over the speed limit. Let's calm the F down.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. Just don't call the cops on Reach, or he'll beat your ass.
I'm just surprised enough of you have read books to reference the Scarlet Letter, and multiple people have done it. This audience, this crowd.
Didn't read a book. Emma Stone's in a movie. Easy A, I think it was called.
I read that movie. I watched that movie.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about AI slop, let's.
All this shit behind me. This is just for the background.
It's just Emma Stone.
It's just for the look.
It's all Emma Stone.
We'll head over to Oliver to round out the subject.
I mean, over 2 million copies sold. No one really seems to care about this except for, as Chris mentioned, a few individuals online that are complaining about this. I think if you're like the game police, as there is out there in Reddit world and on TikTok and other places like that, where they like to complain about releases or complain about the things that are wrong with games, then you're a part of that crew that's probably looking at this and saying, "Oh my God, they didn't say that they had AI." And to Knox's point, let's not absolve them completely of this, but at the same time, I think Michael makes a good point. It's kind of like going 5 miles over the speed limit. I would actually argue that there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of games right now that do not have this AI piece on their game right now, and they're just not as big as what Crimson Desert is right now. And so it's not the talking point, and I think honestly it's no deal at all to me. I think as long as you're using it, as people have said before, in the right ways, and it's making the game potentially faster or more efficient in many different ways from the game dev perspective, and the consumer, the end consumer who is playing in this still loves the game, then what does it matter?
Agreed.
The next game company that does this, I would love for them to go and say like, "Hey, we were going to sell this game for $70 or $80, but we're actually going to sell it for $60 because we used AI. So you're going to get the game cheaper because we used AI." And I think if you see companies start to do that, you will then get like what we talked about a few weeks ago, which the end consumer will finally see benefit from AI rather than costs, or rather than just like corners being cut and this perceived laziness, right? So I would love for them to have come out, if they're going to use AI, don't hide it. I'd say be forward with it and be like, "Hey, we're actually going to sell this for way more, but we're actually able to knock the price down 20% because we used AI and it saved us a ton of money." And I think you'll get the perceptions to change.
Yeah. Well, agreed. And also agreed with the 5 miles per hour over the speed limit thing. I thought it was a really good take from Michael Christine, because for the fact of this is like, this is not a small game. it's gigantic. It's a huge world, right? That is one of the selling points for that. So you have to fill that world to make it seem a lot more lived in. And I think that's what they were trying to use the AI out for. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't, I guess if it was a smaller game, then yeah, you want to make sure that there is art and stuff like that that's filled, because it's going to be a lot more discovered, but not this gigantic world that spends hours from going from one point of the map to the other by walking. Next topic here, Cyberpunk TCG Kickstarter. The official Cyberpunk trading card game launched on Kickstarter with a $100,000 goal. It hit that in 5 minutes, $8 million in the first 24 hours. It is now sitting at over $13 million with 23 days still to go, making it the most funded trading card game in Kickstarter history. Backed tiers go from $49 starting decks all the way up to $8,000 collector sets. Now, zoom out, Pokemon cards are back in a massive way. One Piece TCG exploded, Lacana launched, Star Wars Unlimited launched. Every major IP is eyeing the TCG space. Are you buying or selling this Kickstarter, or the future of trading card games? It's just too hot and forming a bubble, or is the evidence that there's more demand that can be filled? Knock, will go over to you.
Oh yeah, man, we're entering the 15th consecutive year of the Pokemon bubble and how it's about to burst. Listen, I think when I am selling Cyberpunk TCG, not for the reasons that you think, and I'm buying TCG craze. I think when you're building a TCG, there are two distinct audiences that you are building for, especially if it's a physical product. And I think most teams fumble the bag here just a little bit. If you're building for a collector product, it cannot be an afterthought. You cannot just have a collector piece in through and throw in a couple of extra items and call it a collector set. If you're building for players, it's important to protect those players in the way that new cards are brought into the series. You look at something like Magic, they've done excellent on player protection and the formats and the way that you can play the game. They've really screwed the pooch when it comes to bringing IP into the collector side. You look at something like Pokemon, nobody plays the game, and we all collect the cards because of nostalgia and the fact that it's one of the most beloved IPs in the world. And then you look at something like a One Piece that has done an excellent job of threading the line between those two things, where they have great sets for players and they have a real protection for collectors. I think if you're just jumping onto the craze to leverage your IP and hopefully make a few bucks, you're probably going to crash and burn. I think Cyberpunk, from what I can tell, might have a great game, but I think that they're going to end up burning themselves a little bit here with the collector positioning that they put together, because it does not look as well thought out as something like One Piece.
I will say, though, their anime freaking slapped. So
their anime was incredible, yeah.
And I think that's where maybe some people are like, oh, maybe they can do multimedia. We'll go to Oliver, then Sam, and then Michael.
I'm buying this for two or three reasons, I guess I would say. One is I think Cyberpunk is actually quite unique. I think everyone can kind of understand the art style and the direction that they've taken. A lot of the things that they've done in gaming for a long period of time have resonated with a really, really interesting, like kind of cult-like following, I would say. There's a lot of people that I know that really love this game, and clearly they do because they fundraised a bunch off of Kickstarter, which I think is part of why I'm also buying it. When you have something like a Kickstarter do as well as this has, you have now developed an audience that has an investment into whatever this is going to be, and that makes it quite unique and interesting as well. And so if you can take ownership or kind of the investment in your thing and you get to see it develop from ground zero, it's actually quite unique and interesting. And that's actually part of the selling point of like crypto and NFTs and some of the things early on there. There's some really interesting stuff here that I think can happen. On TCGs in general, I'll just add, I think TCGs are here to stay. People are going to keep playing new card games. Kids now more than ever are buying more different card games. They're trying to find the unique spins on games like a Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! One Piece has done a pretty good job, or is getting into that area or territory. I think there's other ones that will be out there in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. We haven't even talked about Disney IP and some of the other IPs that really haven't evolutionized or revolutionized kind of, I would say, to TCGs today. And so I think there's actually more to be had here, and I'm very, very bullish long-term on TCGs and where they go.
Love it. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah, in regard to buy or sell this particular TCG, I think they started with a 100K goal on Kickstarter. Now they're at 12 million. It's clear that, people are buying it. I didn't do enough research to know if the collector economy is being correctly approached, and if these are going to be plus EV, as we call it in the industry. Will you make money off of contributing to this Kickstarter? There's a lot of different tiers. There's a lot of rare cards that are graded and stuff that you could get by going to the more advanced tiers that are like $8,000. And those there was only 100 each or 1,000 each or something, and they sold out almost immediately, except for a couple of them. And so I do think that people are going to make money, assuming that it's all done correctly. And CD Projekt Red typically does a pretty good job. Yeah. But buy or sell TCGs, I'll take the contrarian point of view. I'm selling. I think that Pokemon and One Piece are going to be fine. And I think that collectibles are here to stay in a physical realm. But with that being said, like, everybody and their mother is trying to make TCGs work for their IP. And it is brutal. Like, it is really tough to make things plus EV unless you are a world-class IP. And on top of that, it is really, really, really hard to get anybody to actually play a physical card game. I have Riftbound cards in my house, and I love League of Legends, and I love card games, and I cannot get myself to sit through learning what the fuck it takes to play a game of Riftbound. It is a miserable experience that I don't wish on anybody. And imagining like 11-year-old kids getting off TikTok, getting off Roblox, getting off Minecraft, getting off Magic the Gathering, getting off Pokemon, everything else they could do with their time to sit there and try to learn that dry ass card game is psychotic to me. This is purely a collector play. That's why people do this. It is not because they think that the things are fun.
Love it. Good take. Michael.
Yeah, so I love Cyberpunk. I love the anime. Can't wait for the season 2 that's coming out. I love the video game, even though the initial launch was crap. The video game itself is incredible. Yeah. I think the whole world's unique. However, I do think we are in a trading card bubble. However, to Knox's point, I don't think Pokemon or any of like the huge major ones, but I think kind of overall, I think the Kevin from Shark Tank was repping some kind of TCG the other day on live TV, and that kind of showed me, it was kind of like Steve Aoki at the top cycle of the NFTs. Like, it showed me like, hey, maybe we're in a bubble if Kevin from Shark Tank is now like repping trading cards. So yes, I think the big boys who've been here for a long time are going to stay. I think One Piece is just one of those IPs that'll obviously succeed. But overall, I'm kind of selling the TCG market just because I think it's becoming well oversaturated. We're going to see some wins, but it's kind of like, you know, why did Web3 start to fail? Well, you know, meme coins took away everybody's attention, and now there's thousands of meme coins, and this is why all these other things started to fail, because your attention is being pulled in all these different directions. So I think we're going to start to see the same thing with TCGs, just because it's not sustainable. However, like I said, the top dogs, they're always going to be there. Pokemon's going to have the staying power. One Piece is going to have the staying power. We'll see if Cyberpunk is a big enough IP to stay, but just overall, I'm a little bearish on the market now, just from all the hype and like, oh, now the corporate's in there and they're gonna just throttle this until nobody wants to see a trading card ever again.
Yeah, I'd rather get Gwent than a Cyberpunk version. You know what I mean? Chris Heatherly.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this on the NFT podcast before, but when I was a teenager, I worked in a comic book store during the comic explosion during the 90s. When Image came out and Valiant came out, and we were doing, holo covers and issue zeros and blind bags and blind bag with a card and blind bag with a holo card and every other gimmick. And so I saw the speculation kind of go up and down, and there's elements of that here for sure. On the other hand, I've seen with Club Penguin the impact of these generational games, right? Mm-hmm. And you see it right now with Roblox and with Minecraft, with the shift on the game side over into like sandbox games. There are games that kind of define or behaviors that define a generation. And I think Pokemon collecting is one of those for Gen Z and for millennials. And so, I do think there's a super trend or a super cycle in trading cards because of that. A lot of brands come and go. Not everything has the collectability or the longevity. But I'll tell you, I'm long on the like, I'm buying the Cyberpunk brand. Like, it definitely was able to deliver a lot of revenue. Right. And if I'm Hollywood, I'm looking at that and going, wow, like $12 billion, for a Kickstarter, like, that's probably, like, you just do the math on like that secures a significant portion of your opening weekend for a movie. Right. So I think it says that there's a lot of passion around and interest around Cyberpunk in particular.
Yeah. And also just like a lot of more interesting versions to be able to do funding, right? In some ways, like, Lems was saying that why the heck are they on Kickstarter? It is actually a really cool thing to be able to see that you're going to sell out before you actually commit anything to production, which is really cool to see. We'll go over to Jerry and then Oliver.
Yeah, so a few months ago, I actually started a business where I am selling a lot of like One Piece and Pokemon cards, right?
Mhm.
And so I think what you have in the trading card space right now is like it's hotter and growing more rapidly than like it ever has, right? Every Dragon Ball has a trading card game. People don't know that Naruto has a trading card game, right?
Dude, what?
A lot of IPs have trading cards and collectibles around them, right? Yeah, well, and I have no idea how good the card game is. But so like Pokemon, you have this like pure nostalgia, just hype, excitement, like investment opportunity for a lot of people, like, and you're seeing like business pop up around it. People who like wouldn't have, have an interest in having like a shop like Chris was talking about where he worked when he was a teenager are like able to run shops, right? Sports cards are having a huge comeback right now, right? A gigantic comeback right now. And then One Piece you're seeing start to blow up. But like, what does One Piece have, right? One Piece has one of the most popular IPs in the world and an objectively great card game that's fun to play. And it's the kind of the opposite of Pokemon, where like people like to collect One Piece, and there's a vending scene and like a digital card shop scene around One Piece, and that's growing really rapidly.
Yeah.
But people love to play the game, right? Go to your local like One Piece card game for like a month straight, and you will see every week there will be more people there than the week before, right? It's objectively good. And I think the idea of having a TCG for collectible sake, I think that is going to fatigue incredibly fast, right?
Right.
Now, if you're able to make an objectively good card game, which like this panel knows better than anybody, because we've seen 100 people try and we've seen 2 people kind of pull it off so far, that it's probably the hardest genre to go in and to actually disrupt, right? And to actually steal people away from the game that they love already, which is, Magic or, Hearthstone. And so I think what these TCGs will need to do is actually just make your print quality is going to have to be great. Your card art is going to have to be great. Your IP is going to have to be really solid, but you're going to have to also have a really good trading card game to get people to sit down and want to play and overcome like what Sam was talking about, which most trading card games don't. But like you're seeing it happen right now with One Piece, right? It is growing exponentially fast, and I think it can be done. I think there's more room for it and more appetite for it because I think people are kind of post-pandemic and post this like weird phase of NFTs and
Holy
everything.
shit, Gary, there's a timer, brother. My God.
Okay. All right. Fuck the guy who actually is immersed in the TCG space right now.
We'll circle back.
Got it. We'll go over to Oliver and then I will go out with Knock.
35 million copies plus sold on Cyberpunk, one of the top selling games of all time, I think, when it comes to numbers there. The anime has really good reviews and recommendations. I think they have an addressable market that's like really, really sizable here. And that's why I think this stuff really can resonate. And to Jerry's points, look, if the card art is good and they have great IP, which I think they do, and the Kickstarter has raised what it's raised, I think it gives them as good of a chance for success as anything else out there right now. And so I think that's why I stand on the buy side of this. I think there's obvious, conditions here to everyone's point on the panel that this is a bubble that we're in right now and it could burst. Yes.
Right.
I do think there's a lot of people out there that are still cramming at the bit to like try and get more. They want more of this stuff. And so I think there's still some time here to see this sort of stuff come out, and a great game that doesn't matter. Like that will not be affected by this bubble. I don't think. I think as long as you create a great game, it can really be powerful regardless. And so time will tell. We'll have to see what this ends up looking like, but I really love the numbers behind this.
Love it. We'll go over to Knock to end it out.
Doesn't matter. The card quality, the card art, none of that shit matters. Lorcana had the best IP on the planet and they fumbled the bag because they don't understand the collector ecosystem. One Piece is winning, yes, because they've got a great IP, yes, because they've got a great game, but more importantly, they're winning because they understand the balance between protecting your players and protecting your collectors. When they release a set, the set runs for a set print run, and then they never print that set again. When a certain number of cards, highly playable cards, are difficult to get, and the price of those cards increase too significantly for players to be able to have them easily, what they do is they reprint them in PRB sets. Those PRB sets are reprint cards for playable cards with new chases. So every time they introduce a new type of product into the ecosystem, there's a chase card for collectors and there's a reason for players. The reason why somebody like a Cyberpunk is fighting an uphill battle is because you don't get to say we are a collectible product in the same way a game doesn't just get to decide they are an esport. You have to build that product in the trenches. One Piece has done that. They screwed up with their first couple of print runs. They've resolved that issue and they're protecting their ecosystem. That's something that you can only learn through trial and error. And that's why I'm selling basically everybody else in this market, because everybody, with the exception of Pokemon and One Piece, has completely fucked us up.
Good take. Over to Sam to close it out.
Yeah, you have to sell this one in particular because everybody wants a Charizard or a Pikachu, regardless of if they engage with Pokemon or TCGs. I don't like One Piece. I don't consume One Piece. I still want a Luffy if I'm opening those packs. What the fuck do I want from Cyberpunk?
Lucy
Reeves.
You want a Lucy hard.
That means nothing to me. That means nothing to me,
and
I'm immersed in gaming every single day. It means nothing to me. And therefore, the TAM, the upper limit of how expensive these cards can get is capped. And I don't think that they can reach the size of One Piece and Pokemon. And therefore, they'll make some money off of it, but it's not going to stick around.
Gotcha. We'll move on to the next one here. Zuckerberg killed the metaverse. In October 2021, Mark Zuckerberg renamed Facebook to Meta and took the metaverse was the future of the internet. Since then, Reality Labs has lost over $80 billion. Last week, Meta announced Horizon Worlds, the VR social platform that was supposed to be at the center of all of this, was announced to be shutting down on Quest headsets on June 15th because they have to build everything twice, once for VR and once for mobile. But mobile was the only one that was growing. That was later walked back after some backlash, so they'll continue supporting both platforms. And weeks before that, they laid off over 1,000 Reality Labs employees. The New York Times put it simply, Zuckerberg's original conception of the metaverse is effectively over. Now, some will say that $80 billion number is misleading. A lot of it went to Quest hardware, the Orion AR glass prototype, things that will still have a future in the company. As for the panel here is Time of Death, March 2026. Panel is its autopsy time. What killed the metaverse? What was it, the product, the timing, the tech, or was it doomed from the start? We'll go over to Chris Heatherly first.
I think Zuck was the last person to find out that this idea wasn't going to work, but most people knew it wasn't going to work on the first day. I hope that it's RIP for games that aren't games and don't have gameplay, and people that think they can make, walking around and chatting alone into an interesting, engaging activity. What killed the metaverse? I think that what killed the metaverse, well, first of all, I don't think anything killed the metaverse. Roblox is the metaverse and it's doing great, right? There are people that will dispute that, but I have a very strong argument for that. I think what hurt the metaverse significantly was this kind of like term, like lack of clarity around what the metaverse is, and this idea that, oh no, it's not a game, it's not a game. I think that whenever you're in an interactive medium like this, it becomes gamified by nature, and you just have to lean into that. And I think what they wound up making is a whatchamacallit. Like, it didn't do anything that was in particular compelling.
Good take on that, Michael.
Yeah, if you know me, I'm the resident VR hater. Super cool idea. It just, the tech isn't there. I have all the VR headsets. I can only use them for like 10 minutes at a time, not because they like make me dizzy, but literally the hardware hurts my neck. Like it hurts my head. Like if I move from side to side, I'm sore after 10 minutes. So what killed the metaverse is the fact that we are so far away from having just easily wearable tech that makes the metaverse make sense. What Chris Heatherly said is also completely correct in the sense of, like, Roblox is the metaverse, Fortnite, arguably the metaverse. Like that exists. People love virtual spaces. Knock is still chilling in RuneScape, excuse me. But the hardware killed the metaverse 100%. If we had just regular glasses that I could put on my face and it launched me into a different world, the metaverse would be thriving right now. Once neural chips become like an actual thing and people can just like launch into games like their SAO, the metaverse is going to be popping. But for now, until the actual hardware tech is there to access it, we're not going to see anything. Zuck was a little bit too excited. I saw where his excitement came from. We all were a little crazy after quarantine, but
yeah.
The shoe dropped on the other foot. And after, like, I have 2 VR headsets just sitting at home on my desk, just collecting dust after like 3 to 5 uses. And it's kind of like, if pornography can't make something popular, it's not going to be popular. So that's what killed the metaverse.
Good take, Michael, on that one there. Porn is the litmus test. Got it. Knock.
Dude, this is like the equivalent of building a gas station 20 years before a car was invented. Like, the problem here is not hardware. It's not the quality of the thing. It's the order of operations, right? In the examples that we've used, Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, all successful versions of what we would think as of the metaverse, the first thing that came in all of those scenarios was a killer game that brought in hundreds of millions of people to play that title. Then you had elements and tools that were set in place to allow you to build on top of what already existed within that space. But there was a draw. The idea that Zuck was ever going to lead a program of a brand new space with literally no reason to be there, and everybody else will build the things for us, and you'll build games and economies within this metaverse, was just pure stupidity. And to Chris Heatherly's point, Zuck was the last person to figure this out, right? This was dumb. This seems like the rambling of a madman who had more money than sense, and it was never going to work because there was no reason to be a participant in this environment. You have to have a reason to draw people in first. That's what Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft did.
Right.
And now their worlds are expanding because of that. Order of operations was the problem here.
Good take. Sam.
Yeah, I agree with all 3 of the takes so far, but mostly Knock. I mean, where's the killer app? Like, all they did was try to make new shit that nobody cared about. If they took 1 billion of that 80 billion and went to Pokemon and said, like, we're going to build the VR version of the Game Boy game, everybody would have shit their pants and bought a Meta Quest in a heartbeat. And who knows if they would have ended up becoming native to it and spending all of their time in there. I don't, but I know that they would have tried it and they would have experimented with it. I also have seen a lot of people on Twitch lately where it's like, I'm in Skyrim, I'm in World of Warcraft, and they're finding ways to hotkey things so that the game works. And that to me is so much more appealing than literally any single title I have ever seen produced out of any of these studios. I don't understand why they felt like they needed to build the entire thing from the ground up. You can just add to what people already like and go from there. I would have preferred that.
Yeah, I would agree as well too. 1 billion for Pokemon VR would have been sick.
Great take.
Real quick, he also, I don't know if you guys ever used the Meta Quest, but after a while, he made you log into Facebook to then like actually use the device. And
100%.
that actually completely put me off to using it ever.
Well, yeah, because if you're going to like already have terrible numbers, might as well get your Facebook numbers up. You know what I'm saying? Oliver.
Yeah, I think COVID ending killed this, in all honesty. I think we were on a trajectory where people were actually starting to feel lack of connection. And I do think that there was like a slight chance that this could have worked out had COVID kept us quarantined for as long as maybe some thought it would. I don't love the way the tech works. Inevitably, it's just way too far away. We all everyone's talked about the equipment and how annoying it is, the battery life, you could go on and on and on about the different things that you need to do. Setup is kind of ridiculous, how long you have to spend. Why can't I just put it on and walk outside and be like, wow, there's something going on. The idea here, though, I don't want to lose this. The idea here is great. Like, I still believe there is something out there that makes you feel immersed. To Sam's point, add Pokemon, add a world we actually have a connection with to make this interesting. I don't think any of the apps were that crazy, and I think that's where they lost the plot. I was hoping for me to step into the Lord of the Rings and feel like I was there during the movie. Like, that's the sort of stuff I want. I found myself more in love with the National Geographic, like, kayaking thing than I did the Star Wars one, which was also just sad. So I think, again, this goes back to tech implementation. And then again, I think really COVID really did numbers on this. Yeah, real quick.
But as someone who's done a lot of VR and location VR, like, one of the problems is that you really only have a 6x6 area. So you've got this idea that, like, the device sells you this idea that you have this infinite universe that you can explore, but it's really kind of just walking around in a very small area.
Yeah.
And I think that disconnect between the promise, because when you hear people talk about it, it's like amazing worlds and, you know, it's sprawling and blah, blah, blah. And like, that's not the real experience you get. And I think that has always been a problem at the core of the product.
I think that's part of the tech problem, right? I'm just saying, like, can I walk outside and do this? No, you have to stay in this room that you've built already and spent half an hour trying to map out your living room where it doesn't have the table and this and that and the other thing. The last thing I'll just say is, like, it is a green light or kind of like a good thing in my mind that the Ray-Bans kind of came out of this, like the Meta Ray-Bans. That's actually good tech. So I will give them some love here that, like, they figured out that this didn't work and they found a product that did work. Whether or not they were working on those things simultaneously, I do think there's like some kind of future here in some capacity.
Yes,
Oliver, I'm just going to say, minus the huge data leak that Meta just had from their AI, and minus the fact that everybody found out that the questions that you ask the Meta AI are like visible to
cool. That's like every
for
company in the
reason.
world at this point. Yeah.
I just wanted to add the top selling Meta Quest games of all time: Beat Saber, Job Simulator, Super Hot VR, Blade and Sorcery, Nomad, and The Thrill of the Fight. If that doesn't make you want to move some product, I don't know what will, boys.
Hey, Beat Saber was dope, and so was Super Hot.
Beat Saber was pretty cool.
Yeah, cooler than Pokemon and World of Warcraft for sure. Yeah, totally.
Peyton, you're muted.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't want to cough all over you guys. Knock, we'll end it off with you, and then we'll head over to the next one.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is, I know I said it wasn't a hardware problem, but it's also like come on, it's a fucking hardware problem, right? To Michael's point here, look at the graphics. Look at what we've been watching on screen for the last 20 minutes as we're having this conversation. For these graphics to ever look better, you're going to literally melt your fucking head, right? Like the device is going to get so hot. The product barely works. The only good thing a VR headset is used for is a fail compilation on like Fail Army of 25 minutes of like my dad falling over trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with his equilibrium. It is great to watch people try and figure out how to use a VR headset for the first time. It's not practical. This looks like shit. Not one person on this panel can tell me or identify anything that we've been watching for the last 25 minutes, which at the end of the day is the problem here.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well too. Next topic here, though. GameStop says your childhood is retro, which I'm talking about in this room, but probably for Chris, it's been there for a while. All right, this one is personal. GameStop has just put out a statement, and I quote, declaring the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii U, and also I add the GameCube for Jerry's sake as officially retro consoles. They added, and again, I am quoting, these systems are still very cool, and anyone who owned one at launch is absolutely not old. The internet did not take it well. Millennials are in shambles. The Xbox 360 launched in 2005. They'd have to have the towel edition. You can come in with a towel that you had for the 3 Rings of Death. That's 21 years ago. The PS3 is 20. If you played Halo 3 on launch night, I did. That was beautiful. Congratulations, you are now a retro gamer. So let's settle in. Quickfire round. Quickfire, what is the word on this? We'll go over to Knock to then Jerry.
Dude, the word is reality, man. Nothing annoys me more than my generation getting pissed off at how old my generation has become. Listen, like, we're talking about consoles that are older than most of the people that are playing games. Hey, you know what I mean? Like this is what's ridiculous. They can fight a war, they can vote, they can have a drink, and we're talking that this isn't a retro console. PS3, I can't even remember titles that were on the PS3. It was that long ago.
Uncharted.
For me. Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, actually that was a great line of games.
Banger, boy.
But the point is, you know, we were in school. Like my mom had to drive me to the midnight release for some Call of Duties. Like, guys, I couldn't drive. I couldn't be out at that time. Of course, it's a retro title. I think it's ridiculous that anybody's offended by the fact that they have labeled these consoles as retro.
Heck
when
yeah.
we were kids, we were playing retro consoles that were the same age as the PlayStation 3 is now. I think that this is just stupidity. Get over it. Get over your age. You're only going to get older. It's going to get worse from here, not better.
We're on the decline. Mr. GameCube, you can go up next.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just to Doc's point. This just shows that millennials are like, in the history of all time, the most easily offended group of people in the history of the world, dude. It's ridiculous, dude. Doc, it's worse than what you were saying, because in 2005. We looked back at like the Nintendo 64 and we were like, that thing's ancient, dude.
Yeah.
You know, that was 10 years, right? From 2005 to 1995. 20 years was like a crazy gap to us, right? You're like talking about first video games of all time.
Yeah.
And you're at that same gap now. I mean, yeah, you have Uncharted, you had games like Heavy Rain, dude, first Modern Warfare, which is again looked back on with, extreme amount of nostalgia. It means it's old as fuck. Like, which is okay to be old, right? But just drink more water, moisturize, like stretch a little bit. You won't feel as old. You're not going to be easy to offend. This is ridiculous, dude.
Hydrate or die. Mr. Chris Heatherly, you lived in retro, brother. What's up?
Welcome to middle age, millennials. Welcome to irrelevance and dad jokes and people not getting your musical taste or the video games you grew up with or any of your movie references. Oh, no one has deserved it more than the millennial generation.
It's true. It's true.
I love it.
I freaking love it. That is the quickfire word from Chris, and I loved it. Michael.
Chris, I want to borrow your ARP card soon, but my word here is forever young. I want to be forever young. Sign me up for the new trials that are supposed to rejuvenate your cells and anti-age you by like 20 years. It just got FDA approved. I'm signing up. I don't ever plan to be old. I'm taking my multivitamins right now. I'm stretching. I'm going to be in every generation. Call this man the first black vampire. I'm there. I'll see you in the next 100 years, looking as rejuvenated as I do now.
Love it. Love it. We'll go to you, Oliver, and then we'll end with Sam.
I don't have a word for this. All I have is I'm realizing that the Super Nintendo, N64 was probably a 10-year gap. And I'm realizing now that in 20 years, we have had 2 console iterations, PS3 to PS5. That's crazy. That's all I got to say. It's crazy. And
yeah,
I don't care about it, them saying it's retro or not. It's retro. People don't play them. That's point blank and simple.
Whoa.
As Knox said last week or the week before, you don't insert discs into the console anymore, do you? So yeah, that it's retro. I don't really care. I'm not offended, although a lot of Gen Zers seem to be offended by just about everything in this world. And all I'm shocked by is how we do not get console updates as frequently as we once did. That was the only shocking thing about this.
100%.
Just wait until they find out that AI wrote the article, Oliver.
That by far, that was also one of the most hilarious Gamified clips of all time, was the disc one as well as Xbox. Does my wife still love me? It was hilarious. It was so good. Just as a bystander, I freaking loved it. We'll end with you here, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, my word is not that creative. It's nostalgia, but specifically the type of nostalgia where you play something, forever ago, and then you come back to it. And whenever you play it again, you realize that it's absolute dog water. I had this experience at Wolves Den last year with GoldenEye. I have built up how awesome and fun GoldenEye was for 25 years in my head. And then I tried it again as a 32-year-old adult male. And I literally could not hit something 4 feet in front of me because the controls are so terrible on that game. I think as soon as you actually have that experience of, I'm playing a thing that I feel like should be super fun because of all this nostalgia that's built up in my head, and it's dog shit, that means it's at least a couple of decades old, and we're certainly there with like a lot of the titles on the Wii U.
We are there.
Although a lot of that stuff is going to get rebooted, right? Like reboots are so hot right now.
Yeah.
Jack and Dexter.
Reboot GoldenEye.
YouTube is bringing back cable television, basically.
Very true, Michael. Dude, I actually had to cancel that subscription. It was crazy. It's expensive. All right. Next up, Epic laid off 1,000 more people, which is a little bit more somber for sure. But let me walk you through the timeline. In January 2025, Sweeney said Epic is losing billions fighting Apple and Google because it can afford to, and joked, we might run into serious financial problems after a couple more decades. 14 months later, he laid off 1,000 people and admitted they're spending more than they make. 2 weeks ago, Epic raised V-Bucks prices, citing rising costs. 1 week ago, they launched Fortnite Chapter 7, Season 2. In addition to those 1,000 employees laid off, there was a second mass layoff after cutting 900 before, blaming a downturn in Fortnite engagement. Tim Sweeney told staff the company is spending significantly more than it makes. They're targeting $500 million in cost cuts. In the midst of this, Sweeney has been burning billions on legal wars with Apple and Google and building the Epic Game Store primarily as a weapon against Steam. Critics have also loved to point out that he's paying out tens of millions of dollars to brain rot content created on UEFN. Meanwhile, the Google settlement just landed. Play Store commissions dropped from 30% to 20%. He won the war, but at what cost? I actually thought that Chris Heatherly, you had a really good take on LinkedIn, talking a lot about, he probably did a lot of good, but at the same time, what did it cost him? I would love for you to kick it off.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tim. I'm very grateful for what he's done for the industry in fighting Apple. I mean, look, and he picked this battle before the UEID stuff that screwed mobile, right? So Apple has absolutely acted like a monopolist, as have Google, and I think he fought the good fight, but at a tremendous cost to the studio. I also think they got into a mode where they I actually don't know that the suits are the bigger problem as so much as I think the success of Fortnite got to their head a little bit. They had a hiring, bonanza, and like a lot of other people, adding more people doesn't necessarily mean that things get better or scale. And I think that, just the overhead and managing that, the number of projects that they started taking on, the M&A they were doing, like they kind of distracted themselves from the cash cow. And, now they're playing catch up with Roblox.
What do you think about like the Fortnite? There's a lot of push right now from an early marketing spend for Disney and like what they're going to be doing with Star Wars. Like, do you think that's going to bring them kind of back, or you think that this is just going to be a very cyclical thing that they're going to eventually lose, or are they going to come back?
It depends on what they do. I mean, I'm not super impressed by what they've done with Star Wars so far. I think it's cool that Disney is allowing people to build their own stuff with Star Wars IP. So that's like a break from the past. But I also, I expected them to do some like big groundbreaking, Disney theme park online, right? And I think it just turns into like mini games and UFN content. It under delivers the epicness, excuse the pun, that a lot of people expected.
Yeah, I'm glad that you got it over the line there. Sam, we'll go with you next.
Yeah, the game mode being Boardroom here is like, it's interesting because I'm sure the Boardroom was sold, hey guys, like we're going to break into this monopoly that Steam has, and we're going to break up the duopoly that Google and Apple have, and we're going to be one of the big players, and we're going to make infinite money. And I think that still could kind of be true eventually, but it's clear that it's taken them a long ass time and costed them a ton of money. And the sort of up only to the right experience that Fortnite was able to provide to Epic for a long time seems to be struggling a little bit. I don't want to say that it's like doomed to fail, but it certainly has been sort of capped or hamstrung by the success of Roblox, which I think has surprised them and taken them aback a little bit, because those demographics didn't seem to overlap that much at first. It seemed like Roblox was super young and Fortnite was like the teens, and now Roblox has sort of taken a lot of their market share away in the teenage category, from what I can tell. I'm not super educated on this. And so I'm really curious, if you are Tim Sweeney, like what is your next move now? Like, how do you go back to the Boardroom? Do you do what sort of like OpenAI is doing and cut Sora or one of these campaigns, or do you try to continue to do everything and sell this goal of like, but when we get there, it's going to be infinite money again? I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I also think that like UEFN had a really good, strong start. But what ended up happening with a lot of them at the beginning, because I used to cover like TikToks and all that stuff on them, because I was kind of positioning myself to make content for that vertical, because I was like very much believing and betting on UEFN. Whenever I talked to a lot of those creators, though, the discovery was the biggest issue. It was like, hey, I'm making really cool experiences, but no one is seeing it. And what's going on right now? And I think that was a really hard thing. And then like a lot of people picking on Tim, like he's never really fixed the discovery of UEFN to surface the best ones. And guess who won in that whole UEFN setup? Was the creators. It was like people like Orangey and all these Fortnite clicks and guys that just built that distribution system. So they didn't ever fix that. And I will say that same problem with UEFN is the same thing that's happening with the Epic Store. What the frick? Like, what? Be something different from Steam if you also want to compete in that realm, in my opinion. We'll go over to Oliver and then Jerry.
Yeah, I think this is a classic case of like getting really, really big and going up and to the right for a long period of time and then justifying a bunch of hiring and then realizing like, oh, it's not that simple all the time. I think that's part of it. If like you were to like kind of blanket statement it or be as base level as possible. I think there is part of this though, to your point, Peyton, around UEFN that I think is really, really important. I think there's Roblox, there's Minecraft, there's a few other competitors out there that are competitors both on the front end and the back end. And I think what's interesting about that is you're also competing with the creators of these games with the distribution, as you mentioned, kind of discoverability, as well as the revenue and kind of the cuts and the things that they see there. And so I think what they've lost is some of the uniqueness of what UEFN offered initially. And maybe people are just tired of building the same games, or there isn't as many game modes out there. And Roblox has more of an edge there. I don't know for a fact. I'm just simply saying that I think they've lost a little bit of the lust on the creator side of things. And I think they have to go back to their roots a little bit here and figure that out. Yeah,
would definitely agree with that. We'll go to Jerry and then Knock. Then
yeah, I think Fortnite is just like, it seems to me like they're a victim of their own success, right? And that they grew so rapidly and, you know, to keep the, you know, cultural relevance high, you just have to keep spending, right? Doing like the Travis Scott activation, it's not cheap, right? But you have to keep doing that stuff in order to continue growth at that level. And there's less upward, you know, mobility that's available to you. And I think that is happening where they're rethinking that strategy at the same time where they got outcompeted on UGC by Roblox. Roblox has better discoverability, has better monetization. Like, dude, it's something like 4% of UEFN creators actually make over 20K. Like, it's extremely top heavy in UEFN creative, right? So they have paid out, there's the headline of like, they have paid out $750 million. Most of that has gone to like 4 different groups of people. Whereas Roblox has, you know, better discoverability. And Peyton, I think you make a great point, right? The same thing that's losing them the UEFN or the UGC battle is what it lost them the launcher battle.
Right.
So I think, and at the same time, also those two things are happening where Fortnite as a game is not really doing anything different either. So I think they've just kind of spread themselves too thin and got outcompeted on each of thus fronts. And, you know, I think thus you're seeing Fortnite in this position of, you know, kind of feeling stagnant and not, it's a little bit directionless right now.
Yeah, it is very sad. I think they are going to go to the drawing board. And I also, you know, fighting that much legal battles as well too. I've been at a studio where the CEO was fighting legal battles pretty much the whole time. And it is taxing. There is very much an attention drain as well too. So I don't know. We'll see.
I think that's going to end up being like this scapegoat for the failures of Epic to continue to make sure that Fortnite is innovating and growing. You know, that should not be a mental stress on your lead designers and your, you know, game designers and level designers and all these people, right? That should be the legal team's problem and Tim's problem. So, you know, I think the fact that they've kind of gotten outcompeted on multiple fronts, you know, I don't want to see the lawsuit become a scapegoat for that. I think they made strategic missteps.
That's fair. We'll go over to Knock and then we'll end it out with Chris.
Boys, the call is coming from inside the house. The thing that made Fortnite successful was Donald Mustard and competitive play. They abandoned competitive play after the 2019 World Cup because of COVID. They had a massive success off the grounds, off the basis that competitive created for them, and they just never treated that audience fair, and everybody has left. Donald Mustard was a powerhouse. He was my nightmare as a Fortnite competitive player, but from a creative and a gameplay perspective, he was a superpower for what was going on at Fortnite. He was a very rare talent who understood the importance of blending the fun, always-on engagement vehicle that is a live service game, as well as weaving that into actual gameplay within the Fortnite universe. The minute that he left in 2023, everything went downhill for that game. I think it's hard to overstate the cultural significance that Fortnite had. It had a chokehold on everybody from the age of 10 to 40 for like 4 years. And the biggest reason for that was because the game was fun. It did innovative things from the entertainment perspective and the engagement perspective, and it was competitive. And you had the biggest streamers that exist today had their start in Fortnite 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I think what happened here was you lost Donnie, you lost the competitive spark. There's no reason for people to continue to play. They overhedged on UEFN, but they didn't have the top of funnel engagement tool that would create better people to build better systems within UEFN. I hated the guy for competitive play, but Donald Mustard, I think, was much like Jeff Kaplan here, and the game died with him.
Wait, why did you hate him for competitive play?
Donald Mustard had a very aggravating tendency to change the map and then force competitive play on live servers. So there's one particular instance in Katowice, Poland, 2019, where we had trained for 2 weeks on a particular map. We woke up day of the tournament, $2 million prize pool, brand new map nobody's ever fucking seen before. And he did that on multiple occasions, including he had to get stopped, but including an attempt at doing it for the Fortnite World Cup a week prior to the tournament. He wanted to change it to the new event that was going to be going live. He got his ass kicked, I think, there in the decision making, and he had the previous map. But yes, he did that all of the time, and it was aggravating.
Good take there, Knock. Love also your takes for being such a esports junkie on that. We'll end with Chris. We started and we'll end.
Not what I was going to say, but here's my Donald Mustard story. So I'm at Universal after Fortnite comes out, and we're having a meeting with Donald and some other people from Epic. And Donald's like messing around on his phone, the whole time, and kind of paying attention. He's like, what? Oh, sorry, it's the Russo brothers. Yeah. So hey guys. Yeah. Okay. And then, it has this conversation, hangs up, and then goes, yeah. So anyway, look, if you guys want to do something with Jurassic, just have Spielberg call me. We only talk to top guys. But what I was going to say is, in the announcement, watch for Unreal 6 announcements coming from Epic at Unreal Fest, because Tim hinted at that, and I think that is connected to the solution to, or what they think is the solution to some of Fortnite's problems. The engine is driving in a direction where the difference between Fortnite and UEFN is getting less and less. And so I think there are going to be things in there that they try to do to reinvigorate Fortnite. Good
take on that. Speaking of the Russo brothers, that goes on to our next topic, which is who owns the next decade of entertainment or movie entertainment from a video game perspective, Nintendo versus Marvel. Fox McCloud just got confirmed for the Super Mario Galaxy movie dropping April 1st. Variety and He's Not Alone. Rob the Robot and Pikmin are also showing up. Anime News Network fans are also connecting the dots. These crossovers are fueling theories that Nintendo is building its own cinematic universe, one that could culminate in a Super Smash Brothers. They're just like Avengers. Meanwhile, Marvel is doing their own version of the comeback story with Spider-Man Brand New Day, as well as Avengers Doomsday lands December 18th with Robert Downey Jr. returning, not as Iron Man though, but as a villain Dr. Doom. The Russo brothers, speaking of Chris Heatherly, are back directing. The X-Men are in it, and it's being called the centerpiece of the MCU's multiverse saga. Wikipedia. So here's the question. Marvel owned pop culture for a decade. Then the post-Endgame era was a mess. A lot of woke culture thing. Now they're running it back with the biggest casting stunt in comic book movie history. And Nintendo is quietly building what might be the most beloved IP universe in filming right now. No drama, no recasting controversies, just printing money and stacking characters. So asking the panel here, Marvel or Nintendo winning entertainment here in the next decade, or who would do better, I guess, in that?
I'll go ahead and go first. I'm taking Nintendo for sure, dude. I mean, let me just ask you guys this. What do you want? The 5th Avengers movie or the first Zelda movie? Like, what sounds cooler? You tell me. We all know the answer to that. What do you want more? Another Captain America where they pull some bullshit character nobody cared about just so they could use the words Captain America again? Or Yoshi as a main character of a movie? It is so blatantly obvious. The only thing that might get in the way is Nintendo just might move too slow. Like, we know that they're going to have 47 Marvel movies every single year. They're going to do like 2 Nintendo movies a year. So it really depends. They're going to have bigger releases, but they're probably going to end up making less money in totality. But at the end of a decade, their IP is going to continue to be worth a lot more because it's going to be less saturated.
We'll go over to Jerry next.
I'm probably gonna go with Marvel, just because I think it's in their DNA. Like, and as much as I'm like disappointed in myself for saying that, because I actually don't. I've seen like the first 2 Iron Man movies and none of the rest of the MCU because I have ADHD and don't watch
You
movies.
haven't watched anything else?
No, I haven't. Because
Wow.
yeah, dude, I don't know. I have ADD. But if you go look back at like MCU versus Super Mario Brothers earnings, right? MCU, is drawing more, like dollars in, and the output of the DNA of, that IP and the people around it is built to make movies and built to make a ton of them, where Nintendo has made 1 movie and, they have a bunch of IP. Like, does anybody want to watch a Pikmin movie? Like, they already have put out like the S tier thing. I like, dude, Legend of Zelda is the reason I love video games, and I'm actually terrified. I feel like I'm gonna have a flashback to the World of Warcraft movie, because the main character doesn't speak in any of the games, right? So like, I feel like the movies might be a little bit weird. So, you've already kind of burned the top. I think a Star Fox movie would be cool. I'm not really interested in like a Pikmin movie or like a, Diddy Kong like racing movie or whatever.
Diddy Kong was cool. Donkey Kong and Mario was pretty freaking dope. I like how they're introducing the characters for sure. But we'll see. We'll see. Oliver, we'll go with you. You next, buddy. What are you picking, Nintendo or Marvel?
Nintendo, pretty easy. How many records did Super Mario Bros. Break in the box office last year? I don't know. It was a lot.
I'll be Jamie for you 1 second.
In a year that Barbie came out, in a year that like many really big films came out, in my opinion, I just feel really strongly that the nostalgia is totally with Nintendo here. There's much more lore, I think, with the Mario world and children, adults, everybody in between. I understand that that's probably a hot. I probably understand that that's kind of a hot take coming from Marvel, which has comics and a bunch of other things that come with it. But I truly believe that most people connect more with Mario, and I do think it skews towards families, which I think will just inevitably go towards more success. And to Sam's point, there's some really good character IP that's there. I would love a Zelda movie. Like, I don't know anybody who wouldn't. I think Donkey Kong could have his own feature film.
That was great.
You could go back, and I just think there's a lot here to play with, and I think Nintendo has a big stronghold and win here.
Yeah, before I get over to Chris, I'm going to talk about the Office box office records and milestones from you, Oliver. Highest grossing video game adoption broke the record in just 1 week, setting a new benchmark with $1.36 billion. Ridiculous. Best global opening for an animated film. Biggest 3-day opening weekend worldwide for an animated film, 319 million. Top 23 opening, or in the highest 3-day and 5-day opening weekend of 2023. So absolutely crazy.
Now I'll do MCU. Avengers Endgame, 2.8 billion worldwide, second highest grossing film of all time. Infinity War cracked 2 billion. So comp, Mario Brothers is around Deadpool and Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine is pretty sick. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Mario first one's pretty sick in terms of that. We'll go over to you, Chris.
I'll take the bet that Super Mario Galaxy does more than Avengers Doomsday. I think there's more excitement for that franchise right now. I love that they're like loading the deck with like, oh, here's Yoshi. It's the Yoshi intro. Oh, here's Star Fox. Like today they released yesterday they announced that they're going to have Star Fox in the movie. Look, the Nintendo franchise is, it still has a lot of growth ahead of it. I worked with Chris Meledandri, who runs Illumination, that's making these movies.
Yeah,
he's the absolute best in the business right now. I mean, the guy has like every single movie he's ever made has been a massive success. He just knows how to do it. So I think as long as they have new characters to exploit and they have a good partnership with Nintendo, they can keep going with this for quite a long time.
Yeah,
not to mention the theme parks, by the way, which you guys haven't brought up, are crushing it, especially Florida opening in the last year. Like the Nintendo is definitely kind of putting a beater on Disney. So I think there's a lot more to come there too.
Yeah, I also just think the timing
Animal Crossing, animated series.
It would freaking slap too. But I will say, like, in terms of that too, I think they're hitting the stride here too, with also millennials, Gen Xers, like growing up with Mario and stuff like that. And now they're kind of coming in with some money as well too. So going into Disneyland, are you going to Disneyland or are you going to Nintendo Land? It's also one of those things. Like I go to Legoland and Carlsbad for that too. So we'll go over
what
to
are we talking about millennials? Well, they can't handle being called retro, dude. What are we doing giving them opinions?
You just got to give them money. We'll go over to Knock.
Dude, what are we talking about here? This is like recency bias and fatigue. I really think MCU phase 4 and 5 really screwed the perception on how big the MCU is. Over 20% of the global top 50 by most grossing films of all time is MCU phase 1 through 3. If you've seen anything in the MCU in the last 12 months, they have righted the ship on a lot of the issues that they had in those earlier movies in phase 4 and phase 5. There are some quality movies that are coming out here. Listen, it's fun to talk about Nintendo, and I know everybody here likes to eat the Nintendo slop. They've been delivering the same 4 IP for the last 60 years, and they give you the same version of that thing every single year, and they call it
give it to me in movie form.
Well, let's talk about it for a second here, right? The flagship first ever Nintendo movie performed about as well as the 15th most popular MCU title, right? So if every single title for the next 15 consecutive titles that Nintendo releases does better, then they'll maybe get close to Endgame. I think this is fatigue from the first 3 phases. I think phase 4 and phase 5 came way too hard, way too fast, and changed way too many things. But phase 6 will change that up again. Nintendo just does not have the depth to compete. I know I'm over time, but I'm going to say one more thing. The fact that people say that there's even remotely close to the same amount of lore and depth to explore in the Nintendo universe is insanity. Pick any single character in the MCU.
There's no question about that.
Pick a single character in the MCU, and because of the multiverse, that one character has more lore than all of Nintendo's IP.
Dude, you can't wait for the Kirby movie where Kirby is just spamming his own down B on everything that's in his path.
Well, and Marvel's getting ready
a whole
to do
movie
X-Men,
up here.
Right? They're getting ready.
Yeah, dude, Kirby's gonna huff and puff and blow people's houses down.
He sucks, dude.
You guys are acting like they didn't give us Ant-Man and the Wasp and be like,
hey, that's what I said. I said part of phase 4 and phase 5, some terrible movies. But listen, when your entire main character and the main storyline is about big pipes that your plumber characters go down because you thought it would be a funny way to represent Italians.
It doesn't matter.
There's not a lot of lore there.
It doesn't actually. There is. You played the games.
Tell me a story.
What
are the Mario Brothers about?
That isn't your own interpretation lore. That is my own lore with the game that I played growing up, and as well as my kids that are playing the games and everybody else that's coming through. It doesn't. You can digest this differently. It doesn't have to be how cool the narrative or storytelling is of the comic or the things in the past that make it true. It's the connection you have with the characters and the people that are in it. And nobody has seen this stuff yet we've seen 20 million Avengers movies. Come on.
Here's the thing. In phase 4 and phase 5, which I said were the worst 2 phases, I'll admit, brutal, slog to get through, terrible content. But even in phase 5, Deadpool and Wolverine launched. In the worst, darkest place the MCU has ever been, they still outperformed Nintendo's first movie with Deadpool and Wolverine. It's an uphill battle both ways in the snow.
I hate it when he talks facts like this.
Guys.
If you gave them 20 movies, though, do you think they would catch up? Like, do you think if you gave them the production capacity?
You know why? You know why? Because I'm bringing 5 freaking kids to the movie theaters and my wife. And guess where I'm not bringing them? To freaking Marvel's Endgame. I'm going to tell you right now, it's just that. Oh, sorry, I'm the host. I will fix myself.
No. I think the big thing is this. Listen, we're the biggest part of the MCU, and part of the reason why the MCU did what it did was because it operated in a different era, right? It was in an era where everybody that you knew had been watching it. It was like the Game of Thrones time. Did you see the new episode? Did you see the new movie? Did you see what happened? It was a cultural moment. The Nintendo movie that came out around Super Mario was not a cultural moment. It was a fun thing to do because there was nothing else to watch that particular weekend. So you chose to watch the Nintendo movie. It was fun. It was great. It was extra great if you were, an adult and you had a couple of drinks before the movie, but it wasn't a compelling movie in and of itself. The same cannot be said for the entirety of the MCU. It had a chokehold on the entire planet.
Guys, Knock, 100% correct. The history of video game adaptations becoming movies is abysmal. It is one of the worst things that a movie studio can do. They mess it up every time. They don't stay true to the lore. Sure, parents are going to take some of their kids to some of these Nintendo movies because it's just like a cute, cuddly movie and they recognize Nintendo. But to think that you're trying to put the star of Nintendo, Mario, up against Marvel making C-level heroes, worldwide phenomenons like Iron Man, it's absolutely insane to me. When I saw, like, recency bias, 100%. 4 and 5, season 4 and 5, Marvel were terrible. And that's why Marvel said, hey guys, we realized that we just became money hungry, crazy people, and we were cranking out slop. And we're going to stop that now. And what we've seen since they stopped that is amazing things. You know what? So somebody mentioned Zelda. I love Zelda. I'm terrified of what the Zelda movie is going to be. I'm expecting it to be another World of Warcraft. And guess what? You know, like, I was slightly entertained by World of Warcraft, but it's not like Robert Downey Jr. sacrificing himself at the end of Endgame. Like, there's nothing in Nintendo like that. Oliver, oh my God, there's so much lore in Nintendo. How many times can I watch Mario save Princess Peach from Bowser? It's the same script over and over and over again with a couple of different changes. Oh, let's give Mario a cleaning thing, but he's still saving Princess Peach. Let's give Luigi a haunted mansion, but he's still saving the character. How many times can we go through the same exact story in a movie?
And then some of them get weird too. Do we want to see Super Mario Sunshine on the big screen? You know,
that's what I'm saying. Do I want to see Janitor Mario? No, I want to see people dying. I want to see Dr. Doom destroying universes. Yes, Peyton, you're 100% right. You're going to take your children to the movie. But you know what that's going to do? That's going to make all these movies kids' movies. And once your kids get to a certain age, just like I did when I said, hey, Mom, I don't want to wear, I want to wear boxer briefs. I don't want to wear, like, underwear with little pictures on them anymore. Your kids are going to start to be like, that's for kids. I don't want this anymore. I want the adult stuff. And guess what? The adult stuff, the cool stuff, that's Marvel. So yes, you're right. People are going to see these movies. People are going to see these movies. You're right. But do you think they're going to do the numbers that Marvel did? Their best character, and I'm sorry that I'm over time, matched Wolverine and Deadpool. Wolverine and Deadpool, in my opinion, huge. I know some people said, hey, those are cool movies. I thought it was the most average, basic Marvel movie you could ever imagine, and it still outperformed their best character. You think that this next movie with Dr. Doom, Robert Downey Jr. set the world on fire in 2007 with Iron Man. You don't think he's about to set the next decade again? You're out of your mind. I'm going to take the tried and true people who understand what they're doing over the newbies 10 times out of 10. You guys take your risk on speculation. Yeah. I'll see you at the next NFT hype.
Yep. You guys take your fat Italian crushing turks.
We'll go to Chris, and then we'll end with Oliver, and then we'll go.
Look, I think a lot is riding on how they reboot X-Men, right? Because the next wave is supposed to be the mutant trilogy, or the mutant saga. If it's true that Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey in the new Spider-Man movie, I think that's very bullish, right? If she's playing some Spider-Man villain, I think it's way less bullish. But look, Kevin Feige. So I'll tell you my Kevin Feige story. Because I do know him. So one day I'm over at the Disney store on the lot, right? And he comes over to me and he goes, or he's over, like, looking at the merchandise, the Marvel merchandise. And I go, look, it's the Emperor surveying his, domain. And he's like, dude, you got to check this shit out. And he reaches into his pocket, pulls out his phone, and he shows me an image of Benedict Cumberbatch in Doctor Strange gear. It was like the first image they had, and he was like geeking out. So this guy loves Marvel, right? I mean, he really does. He's not just a film exec, and I think they got too distracted with too many projects and too much Disney Plus. But I think I do think that it's a priority for him to, like, right the ship here.
Love it. Good take, Chris. We'll end with Oliver. And Oliver, please give your MVP. We'll go over there.
I'll just give my MVP. I've said my piece. Don't need to say anything more. My MVP is Chris. 1000% Chris. I think he was really, really good the entire episode. His points on Epic, And I'm not just showering him with compliments because he got a new gig that maybe one day he'll.
You guys starting like a Series C or something, dude?
That has nothing to do with this at all. No, I think his points on Epic, I think his points on the Nintendo recently, even Meta, he has a lot of context to a lot of these things. I think his points were very, very valid and really good and added a lot of context to the conversation. So I'm going with Chris as my MVP.
Yeah, we'll go with you next, Chris.
I'm gonna go with Knock. He had some very good contrarian takes today, which I liked. He brought but runner up for Michael on that MCU push.
Yeah,
I feel
that.
like hey, I was under playing Nintendo or overplaying Nintendo and underplaying Marvel, and he slapped the sense into me. So
Love it, Michael. What's yours?
I'm going to have to go with Knock today as well. Jerry, you were a close second, but you were silent on a couple ones. But Knock, I don't think I've ever agreed with you more on a show. And it's nice for once being brothers.
I love it. We'll go to you, Knock.
I'm gonna give it to Sam, fighting through the sickness, giving some fire.
Yeah.
takes. Weird to see him in the little corner instead of the middle of the screen. And an honorable mention, Peyton. Obviously, you crushed it today, dude. I appreciate you.
Love you, buddy.
Coming step up. Can't wait to go read more about the incredibly well-designed villain of the Nintendo universe. Mario? No, sorry, just Wario. One letter is as much as we could change.
We'll go over to Jerry, the golden god.
Well, I can say one thing's for certain: the left side of the screen here definitely hard carried the show. I'm going with Michael Christine, dude. I mean, that was an MJ performance at 3 in the morning,
100%,
and drop knowledge on everybody. Yep, that was a flu game right there. Shout out
For
Michael
sure.
Christine.
Love it. Sam, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, my MVP is definitely Chris Heatherly. With all that insider knowledge, those stories that we get, that's only from him. Honorable mention to Michael. That was a great rant at the end. I still think Nintendo, if we release the same amount of movies, I think Nintendo cooks them. But then another MVP vote for Peyton stepping up. I really appreciate you, dude. I've gained a little bit more voice since the beginning of the show.
Yes,
sounded like a ghost at the
that's
beginning.
all that matters, man. We didn't want you to strain it too much, brother. Always have fun with the Gamified crew, and they always make me feel welcome. There is a tiebreaker between Chris and Knock. I'm going to actually give it to Chris just for the fact that he has a new job, and we wanted to congratulate him. So, Chris, you got the podium, brother.
thank you guys. Thank you. Okay, since I have the podium, I'll tell you one more story. All right, so I worked on the app for Mario for Universal, the Nintendo World, right? When I was at Universal with the Parks guys, and I had this guy on my team who loved Miyamoto, and I had promised him if he came to Universal, I was going to help Tim Fitzrandolph. I was going to get him in front of Miyamoto. Didn't know how I was going to do it, right? One day I get a call from the guys at the park, and they say, we need somebody to go to Japan and meet with Miyamoto. Nintendo is not happy with what we've done, and we need someone who can be the game translator. I was like, I got the perfect guy. He's a Nintendo super fan. He's wanted to meet Miyamoto his whole life, blah, 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 blah. So he puts together this whole prototype of an augmented reality thing that we can do with the phone and Nintendo, and he's ready to show Miyamoto his prototype. And he takes his right-hand game designer guy with him, right? So they go over to Japan. My friend Tim speaks fluent Japanese, so he says to the translator, to Miyamoto's translator, "Hey, if you need help translating, I can help translate." And she says, "Great, you can sit over at that other table with those guys." Because I need to be with Miyamoto. So he's sitting over at this other table with, it turned out, the creator of Star Fox, and they're having dinner. Meanwhile, Tim is looking at his game designer, who's like his underneath him, like reports to him. And the guy's sitting over there with Miyamoto, and they're like looking at phones and like looking at pictures of the family and like laughing and slapping each other on the back and getting hammered together. And I'm like, oh my God, you must have been so hot. Like, he was like, well, I got to sit next to the guy who created Zelda and the guy who created Star Fox. So
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah, your stories are awesome. The name drops and all that stuff. We got to get you on that podium more often. But appreciate every single one of the guests. It really does. It makes me feel also a lot more comfortable to just come in and sub in for Sam whenever he needs it, like today. But that is episode 153 on Gamified. Thanks to all of our panelists for showing up and bringing the heat. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe button. We do this every week. And if you want to recap in your inbox, sign up for the free newsletter at gamified.beehive.com. Sam will be back next week. I'm Peyton. Thanks for letting me sit in the chair, and we'll see you next time.